Welcome to the Unveiled Epic Echoes channel. Today, we're diving deep into an unexplored historical mystery. It began, as so many forgotten American stories do, with a letter tucked inside a cedar chest in a farmhouse in western Pennsylvania, written in a looping hand that trembled across yellowed paper. A letter that spoke not of Gettysburg or Normandy or the jungles of Vietnam, but of a war that never made it into textbooks, a war waged in silence across the vast, whispering interior of a young nation, a war fought not for land or gold or glory, but for memory itself. The letter was discovered by a schoolteacher named Pike in the autumn of 1978, when the maples burned red along the hills and the air smelled faintly of wood smoke and apples, and she had only meant to clear out her late grandmother's attic. Yet as she unfolded the brittle pages, she felt the quiet weight of something ancient pressing gently against her thoughts like a tide against the shore. The letter described the year 1817, a time when America was still learning how to breathe after the War of 1812, when frontiers stretched wide and unguarded, and the forests of Ohio and Kentucky seemed endless and unknowable. And it spoke of a company of surveyors sent west under official orders that were never recorded in Washington's archives. A company tasked with charting not rivers or hills, but strange earthen mounds and stone alignments that predated the Republic by thousands of years. Monuments raised by civilizations whose names had dissolved into dust long before the first European ship touched American sand. According to the letter, the surveyors found more than mounds. They found a pattern etched into the landscape itself, a vast geometric design stretching across valleys and ridges, aligned with solstices and stars, suggesting a knowledge of astronomy so precise it unsettled even the most practical men among them. And as word of the discovery traveled quietly back east, a decision was made in private chambers to contain it, for there were fears that acknowledging an ancient, advanced culture on American soil would fracture the fragile myth of a new nation born from wilderness, untouched and unclaimed. Thus began what the letter called the American War of Silence, a conflict without uniforms or drums, fought between those who sought to preserve the truth of the land's deep history and those who believed the young republic could not survive such revelations. And there was not a field of cannons, but a maze of secrecy, intimidation, and vanished evidence. Read how the surveyors were divided, how Captain Jonathan Hale, a veteran of 1812 with a scar along his jaw and a steady, questioning gaze, argued that the discoveries should be shared with universities and churches alike, believing that truth strengthened a nation rather than weakened it, while a government liaison named insisted the findings be buried, the mounds leveled, the maps altered, and the men sworn to silence under threat of treason. And as tensions rose beneath the wide Midwestern sky, friendships frayed and loyalties twisted like roots beneath the soil. The letter described secret night meetings by firelight, where Hale and a handful of others debated whether to defy orders, their faces illuminated by flickering flames while owls called softly from the trees. And it told of how, one by one, members of the company began to disappear, reassigned to distant posts or reported dead from accidents that seemed too convenient to be coincidence, until fear settled over the camp like an early frost. Felt the slow, soothing cadence of the words drawing her deeper, as if she too stood among them, hearing the wind ripple through tall prairie grass under a vast canopy of stars that had watched over countless forgotten peoples. And she learned that Hale eventually made a choice that would echo through generations, choosing not open rebellion but preservation, secretly copying the maps and burying them within a network of trusted families across the frontier. A quiet resistance designed not to win a battle but to outlast it. The war that never made it into textbooks unfolded not in a single clash but across decades, as scholars who hinted at pre-Columbian complexity found their funding withdrawn, as artifacts vanished into private collections, as textbooks the continents passed into a convenient blank slate, and the official narrative hardened like plaster over a mural, hiding the intricate colors beneath. Yet the land itself refused to forget, and farmers plowing fields turned up carved stones and copper tools that did not fit the accepted timelines, and children playing in creeks found fragments of pottery etched with symbols that mirrored constellations, and whispers persisted in small towns that there had once been something more, something older, something magnificent. Traced the letter's lineage and discovered that her own grandmother had been the great-granddaughter of Captain Hale, that the cedar chest had passed quietly from hand to hand, preserving copies of the original maps like sacred heirlooms. And as she spread them across her kitchen table beneath the gentle hum of a single lamp, she saw the shapes align with modern satellite images, the ancient geometry still visible to those willing to look, a vast earthwork serpent coiling across counties. Its curves echoing the path of a river, its head aligned with the summer solstice sunset. The climax of the hidden war came, the letter revealed in 1823, when Hale confronted at a remote site near the Mississippi, where workers had been ordered to dismantle a massive mound under the guise of road construction. And beneath a sky streaked with pink and gold, the two men stood facing one another, embodiments of opposing visions of America, Hale arguing that a nation confident in its future need not erase its past, insisting that unity required simplicity. That complexity bred division, and though no shots were fired, the confrontation marked the moment when the war of silence tipped irrevocably toward concealment. For superiors prevailed, the mound was flattened, and the official reports spoke only of routine surveying. Hale disappeared from public record soon after, yet his quiet rebellion endured in the hidden maps and letters that would one day find their way to hands. And as she pieced together the fragments, she realized the war had never truly ended. It had merely softened into a cultural amnesia, a collective drifting into comfortable myths while the deeper story hummed beneath the surface like a low, steady note. Determined yet calm, shared her findings not with sensational headlines, but with a small circle of historians and indigenous elders, listening more than she spoke, understanding that the forgotten war was intertwined with older wounds and older wisdom. And together they began to sites long dismissed, uncovering layers of craftsmanship and astronomical alignment that quietly reshaped local narratives, not with anger but with reverence. The resolution was not explosive but gentle, like dawn spreading across a quiet valley, as communities started to acknowledge that America's story stretched far beyond the margins of its textbooks, that beneath highways and cornfields lay the footprints of civilizations who understood the stars with breathtaking precision, and that recognizing this did not diminish the Republic but deepened it, grounding it in a continuum of human striving and wonder. In the end, the American war that never made it into textbooks was not a war of bloodshed but of perception, a struggle between forgetting and remembering, between fear and curiosity. And as closed the cedar chest one final time, she felt not anger but peace, knowing that truth, like those ancient earthworks, could be buried for a time yet still endure. Waiting patiently beneath layers of soil and story, for someone to notice the subtle rise of a mound against the horizon and ask what came before. And as the night settled softly over the Pennsylvania hills and the stars wheeled slowly overhead in their timeless patterns, she imagined Captain Hale looking up at that same sky 2 centuries earlier, trusting that someday the silence would lift and the land would speak again in its own quiet, undeniable voice, reminding America that its deepest strength lay not in erasing mystery, but in embracing it with open hands and a listening heart. This mysterious journey ends here, but stay tuned for more untold stories in our next video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. Thank you, and see you again.